Hi there. So, a couple of weeks ago, I uploaded this video about Symfony versus Laravel. The problem was that this video was created in Spanish. So, this guy, Martin Campbell, left me this comment on my LinkedIn profile when I shared it. So, I asked him whether he would be willing to come with me to create a new version of this video in English, and well, this is it. Hope you enjoy it. So, first of all, thank you, Martin, for joining me on this very peculiar interview I'm going to do. So, tell folks who are watching who you are, what you do.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I'm really very excited that I can be here. It has been my first video ever, so it's really something new to me. Yeah, I've been working at ESET. ESET is a global antivirus company. So currently my position or job title is Global Website Development Manager. So I lead a team of 12 web developers, but I have quite wide range of experience with many other tools. So, but basically, we are going to speak about PHP. So, I'm in this business for more than 20 years. I started when I was 18, so I remember PHP before, and I remember times when there were no frameworks. So, this is going to be interesting.
The good old days. All right, and just for reference, can you tell people where you are located in this planet?
Yeah, I'm located in Europe, in country called Slovakia, in capital city Bratislava. So, which is, by the way, headquarters for my company.
Okay, good. So, all right. So the topic here is about Laravel and Symfony. So why don't you start telling us a little bit about your experience using Laravel and then perhaps Symfony, and why you choose one or the other.
Yeah. I've been working, or I'm manager or leader, so advantage of this position is that I can cherry pick the best task and which can still somehow move me forward. I've been doing with Laravel for 4 or 5 years. I have some experience. I worked also for 2 years with Symfony 3. So this is basically me. We've been using PHP 7.4 currently, looking forward to PHP 8, and probably this is it.
Good. All right. So since we kind of got to this discussion from an earlier video where I was showcasing application developed using Laravel and the same application using Symfony, and we decided to create this English kind of version of it. So I'm going to speak to my personal experience. Is I'm not so familiar with Laravel. It's like I have read some documentation, I have seen a few talks and stuff, but every time I try to create something, I will face the fact that Laravel seems to be a little too heavy in the usage of static methods, which is something I'm not really comfortable with, and that's probably one of the main reasons why I went back into my old first love, which was the Symfony framework. So how do you feel about that? Is this an accurate description of what Laravel is all about, or what do you think?
Yeah. What you mentioned is many people afraid of static methods, and honestly we don't use them. I remember that somebody told me that Laravel has labeled that it is static hell framework. So, yes, Laravel offers this option to use static. They call it facades, but it's up to you if you decide to use it. I think partially static methods are the reason why this framework is so popular, because for junior level programmers who really don't understand the design patterns, solid principles, or all good stuff about programming, for them it's easy way how to launch a project and website, and therefore it is popular. But when you have a little bit more experience, we don't need to use it. As far as I know, you can also turn it off from framework. So.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And another thing, I was just doing some research on my own. And do you use the Eloquent ORM, for instance?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
That's kind of funny. I use the Doctrine most of it, well, always actually. And one thing I prefer about Doctrine over Eloquent is the fact that Doctrine version number 2 and above is based on the data mapper pattern instead of the active record pattern. So do you find it to be somewhere, either an advantage or a disadvantage, or it's exactly the same? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, honestly, if we compare this to, I really think the Doctrine ORM is better, not only because of what you mentioned, but also because of that Doctrine's entities are totally independent, whereas in Laravel there are models which are tightly coupled with Eloquent. So we wanted to try Eloquent to just compare it with Doctrine. We can use it. Maybe. Okay, the example we have today, I didn't use repository design pattern, but we can also use it in the same way. So we still keep our code flexible to be able to replace it in the future for anything else. So we've been using Eloquent. We know about this, let's say, constraint, and I must admit that Doctrine, this for me sounds that the Doctrine design of the system is a little bit better.
Okay, fair enough. I know somebody in my personal network who is a heavy Laravel user, and he also uses Doctrine within Laravel context. So for those watching this, it's totally fine and it can be done. And so, all right. So I believe you have a example application to show the audience. So take it away.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I prepared an example for purpose of this video. I was thinking what would be the best, and I like to connecting things all together. So I realized we really miss it. It's something like crawler, which would find broken links on our website. And this is basically an example. I'm showing you currently UML diagrams. And I intentionally moved this one command class to the left, because what I'd like to explain you today is that this only class is somehow dependent to framework. All of this on the right side, it's totally independent from the network. And at the end of this session, I will show you how easily I can switch the code to, for instance, to Symfony framework. But what I'd like to speak about when we speak about Laravel and Symfony, for us, it is just a medium which allow us to work more efficiently. And basically, I personally don't care about framework, because we use from the framework basically some components like routing, templating engine, I don't know what else, events, and so on. And those all things are for us somehow connecting points with framework, but the remaining part, the business logic, is totally independent. Okay, so in this case, as I said, only this one class is somehow connected with Laravel framework. Okay, so I prepared here the command. It's PHP artisan run smoke test command. The first argument is URL, and there are some options. You can find more in README file, so I chose this. If I run it, basically it crawls your website. Currently there is no filter set, so it displays all pages. At the end you can see status code that all pages return 200, which is good. And I can easily somehow filter it. I choose filter for free for 1 pages. So I probably okay, that's filtered. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. As you can see, there are no pages displaying at the moment because there are no for pages. So you can configure this command to somehow output results, not to standard out, but to file or whatever you want. When I return back to this diagram, the really very important thing here about the code itself is that we've been using a lot of interfaces, and interfaces for us means flexibility, that we can add a new class without changing existing. We had a very long discussion between using two approaches. One is composition, and second is inheritance. And we chose composition. We rather inject classes into another object than extending classes. But I say, as it is said, never say never. But sometimes we use also extending. But for us, composition is somehow which gives us more flexibility, because we believe we've been trying to write unit tests. And we've been trying to achieve maximum coverage. And if you change existing code, let's say in upcoming or in some half a year or a year, it may happen that you cause an outage or bug in the code. And therefore, we believe when you create always new classes, you can test it, but you would never make a bug in your previous or old code.
Sure.
So,
yeah, well, this is a very interesting discussion on maybe OOP theory, if you will. But I am definitely with you. I prefer to use composition over inheritance. Unless there is a real kind of a natural inheritance relationship between classes. Otherwise, yes, I prefer composition. And another thing I wanted to point out that I really like about your design is the fact that you're using interfaces, and this separation between interfaces and concrete classes also is a very, very good practice.
Also, some people may think that why don't we use suffix interface, and we call it something like programming against interfaces, which means that we write interfaces first, and as you can see, file name generator, it's somehow abstract general name, and basic file name or file name with date time generator is something more specific. So basically we don't need this suffix.
Definitely. One thing I might say is that in this particular scenario where we are creating a very small application and it's like a demo and stuff, someone might complain or point out that this is kind of over-engineered, and my response would be, well, maybe, but if we are trying to create something that will have a long life of its own, it's very it's a very good advice to design this kind of structure of class hierarchy. For you want to be able to, as you mentioned, create new stuff that you don't really know right now. Like for instance, I'm looking at the output filters, and there might be some new output filter sometime in the future. And so by designing it this way, it's really, really easy to bring that into the system.
Yeah, that's right. And by the way, it's recommended, I probably didn't mention solid principles, and this is open close principle that you can add a new functionality without changing existing code. And it seems at first sight that it's maybe for a small script too much logic, but from my experience, it always depending which company you work for, because I know that in my company, the new business requirements would come really very soon. So in my job, it really, we don't see that this is just one-time script or this is one-time program or whatever. When we do something, it is outcome of business analysis, and we as a company, we need it. So therefore we do stuff like this.
Yeah, sure. I was thinking of what every parent out there must think, that children grow fast. So
yeah.
All right. Cool. So do you want to show us something more like related to how this all fits into Laravel?
I'm just thinking if there's something. Yeah, I can, of course. We can go through the whole life cycle. I skip presentation mode.
Actually, I'd like to ask you, how does this whole thing fits in terms of code structure? You know, which directories are, in order for us to maybe get a grasp on the difference between how this is coded using Laravel versus how it is with Symfony.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so directory structure. As you can see, there is a slight difference in Symfony. We have a source folder. Here it is app folder. But basically, Laravel as well as Symfony use PSR4 for autoloading. So directory structure must be the same with namespaces. So I'm just thinking, okay, I mentioned that probably I'm going to show you the whole life cycle. So commands are in Laravel under console folder. There is, as well as in Symfony, artisan command for that. So it's PHP artisan make command. It's almost the same. When we spoke about it, that to compare just commands, then I realized that in the background Laravel uses Symfony, so Symfony command, so it is basically the same.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So here it is. Here is a little bit different syntax for writing options and arguments than in Symfony. Then I've used constructor with some, we've been using a lot handlers, also with controllers, which means that, as I mentioned, connecting points with framework, we try to keep code inside those connection points as less as possible. And also in controls, we use action handlers, which means that we've been trying to avoid creating fake controllers. So we put logic into action handlers, and this is the same approach that we've been using handler, and I've been just calling it here. And because of this class is dependent to framework, Crow handler is totally independent to framework. When I open it, so
interesting. Just I have a small question. This Crow handler would be something like a service in Symfony?
Honestly, I don't know, or I don't remember what services exactly are in Symfony.
Okay. Well, very quick definition is a service is a class that performs a particular service, of course, a particular task, but it's not. Basically, in Symfony, almost every class is a service. Mm-hmm. The only exception would be the entities, which are tied to the ORM. And the idea is that, for instance, in Symfony, the controllers are kind of a special case for service. Yeah. So it's like sometimes people use services as like helpers, or these classes that are like orthogonal to the whole application, which can be used anywhere.
By the way, handlers are nothing specific for Laravel. It is our convention. So
Right. Exactly. That's what I figured. I guess that this could be it could be similar to what I would call a service in Symfony. That's fine. It's pretty much a syntactic convention rather than a real concept. So
yeah, and I see, because when I was working on this, I was thinking of future possible usage, and in case it would be a requirement that, for example, because this crawler makes sense to be used in content management system, that some website editor needs to trigger web crawling to check whether there are some broken links, and in case it would be another task to do that, what I need to do is only to put this crawl handler into controller and somehow bind it with route, and immediately I can use the same functionality at more places, right?
Right. That's great. That's great. So I would say here, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to say, but it's probably like you are implementing maybe the strategy pattern, or even I guess the crawler could be an implementation of the strategy pattern.
We've been using a lot of strategy patterns.
My favorite pattern, definitely.
yeah, me either. Yeah. So basically, when we speak about design patterns, we know that there are, creational, structural, and behavioral, and there are many of them. But in 80% of time, we've been using maybe 5 of them. It's repository design pattern, strategy design pattern. Maybe I'm just thinking of any adapter I've been using a lot, because maybe this is another interesting topic, is that I've been using third-party libraries for crawling. Vendor is, maybe it's author, or I don't know if it's company or a person called Spetty, and the Spetty crawler is more known for Laravel community, but I don't use it directly in my code. I created adapter. I created adapter, and you can see here that I have interface.
Right.
And this interface in the Laravel community is called something like contract. So it's contract between third-party vendor and your application that it uses these methods. Yeah, and I use this contract in this adapter. I put it here. Here we go. This is a class from third-party library, and I adapted it to our usage. I've been using just maybe those methods I really need to use in this particular task.
Right. So I see what you're doing here is you're kind of preparing to switch from Spatty to some other crawler and not break the application.
In the future, yeah. Wow. This is exactly, and honestly, this spent me maybe 15 minutes to write this, and we've been working on systems, or our primary goal at ESET is long-term maintenance. And when we speak about long-term maintenance, it is 10 years and more. And in this time span, many things may happen. You have to be ready to upgrade framework to higher versions. You have to be ready that some libraries and components become deprecated. So you really need to be ready for replace any component in your system really very fast, and as soon as possible. We are a security company, so for instance, if it is security vulnerability in any package, we have to really replace it really very soon.
Right, absolutely. I like your approach. I try to do it myself. Yeah, I think it's a very good advice, or a takeaway is that if you are integrating with third parties, you don't want your code to be like 100% dependent on what happens to the third party library, because they might decide to not support it anymore, or I don't know, any number of things can happen. So by structuring your code in this way, you got like a protective layer to your own application. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah. I'm just thinking if any other. Okay, maybe interesting thing is we've been using collections. I was a participant in one conference in Croatia, which is in Europe, and Hugo Hamon, it's the name of I think he was core developer of Symfony framework, and he presented there. He had a really great presentation about design patterns, and he introduced us the topic called object calisthenics. And object calisthenics, it is just some points you should follow, and one of them is that treat arrays as collections, and therefore you probably wouldn't find in my code that I use arrays as an input parameter. I prefer using collections, and benefit of using collection is that again you have open hands. In standard arrays, you basically can search, I don't know, through keys or I don't know, maybe use array search function, but the capabilities are quite limited. But when you use collection, you can somehow add there some exceptions in case I don't know, key doesn't exist, and in this case your hands are more open. For instance, and we've been using a lot collections in connection with strategy design pattern. That first of all we add into collection some, in this case, output filter, and then as you can see I have here get method. And based on strategy parameter, I know strategy parameter may be in the command line I had output option, and output option has options standard out, file, CSV file, and so on. And based on this option, I will get out of the collection the particular strategy, and I will use it in the code.
Right. That's interesting. Now I'm wondering. I never thought of it this way, really, the collections and arrays. But I'm wondering, don't you find that the built-in functions for dealing with arrays, like I don't know, array filter or those kind of functions, kind of are enough, or do you feel that?
I think it is. They're basically enough, but array filter or array search or whatever else, they do just. There's just one function, let's say searching. But in this case, for instance, I can use in collection count for instance. Yeah. And even though there is count method, I'm using it right now, but it's. I work with collection with array in one place, right? So it is maybe more connected with single responsibility principle, that I'm trying to put things which are related together in the same class.
Okay, that's food for thought, as they say. I'm going to do some research on the difference between collections and arrays. Thanks for that.
Yeah. I think object calisthenics, it is fourth point about arrays and treat arrays as collections. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'll look into that.
Yeah. Okay. So this is it, and I'm thinking of the others. What would be interesting, but basically this is it. This is not so complex task. So probably I could show you now the differences. I mentioned that I would like to switch this example from Laravel to Symfony framework, and I'd like to explain or show the others that it is really very simple if you follow these, let's say, recommendations of what I mentioned. So I'm going to switch to my second PHP Storm. I switched to branch. So by the way, all of this is in my GitHub repository, so we can probably share it somewhere with you.
Yeah, we will leave the repository URL as a comment on the video. No problem.
Yeah, perfect.
This looks more like home to me.
Yeah. Okay, so I installed Symfony. This what we can see in the master branch. This is basically the clear Symfony installation. I've just added Docker Compose and Docker files. There's nothing more. By the way, when I see here Xdebug, do you use it?
Yeah. Oh, I use it heavily.
Yeah.
Don't you?
Yeah, I use it, but I'm many times I'm very surprised that people, and also people who think that they are senior developers, they have never heard about it. So
yeah, that's the same feeling I get. And in fact, I just recently I did a workshop on how to debug like a pro.
yeah. So this is absolutely must for web developing, and I can't imagine how they do. Yeah. Okay. So because I prepared for this session a bit, and I didn't want to risk that something will not work, I prepared some branches. The second branch called Lara to Symfony difference, but probably I could show you this on GitHub. I'm just thinking, because I'd like to show you the differences. I switch. Here we go. As I create pull request. Okay, so here are some changes I needed to do when I would like to put my Laravel code into Symfony. So first of all, I needed to add static crawler and Swift mailer because I've been using it. Then static crawler is dependent to DOM crawler, this specific version, so I had to specify it. And Composer had an issue with versions also, so I had to specify a little bit closer Symfony process version. This is all I needed to do in Composer JSON. Then basically all I needed to do is, because Laravel doesn't have YAML files for service container, Laravel has its own solution, and I had to rewrite service container from Laravel to Symfony. So I rewrote it to Symfony's services YAML file. Honestly, I'm not perfectly in this YAML thing, so if there are some things that could be done more effectively, it is really possible.
I'm seeing you might want to take advantage of the auto wiring characteristics of the new Symfonies, but since for instance I can see something like maybe the Guzzle client could be removed, it's not very much you're going to gain, because most of your classes need specific arguments, so I'm not sure how well the auto wiring would work for you, but yeah, I would give it a shot. Maybe if you, I mean, now that you have it working and it's working, it doesn't really make much sense to go back, but unless you want to experiment with auto wiring.
By the way, how do you feel about this YAML file in Symfony? Because there are other options. Another option is also to use PHP, which is similar to Laravel.
Yeah. Well, this is kind of a sensitive issue. No, I mean, I have to say I learned about YAML files when I first started using Symfony version 1, and at the time there was no real option, so I kind of got used to using these YAML files, but I can see why they're trying to encourage people to switch to plain PHP configuration files. which is what I usually do when I'm not coding using Symfony. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense to use PHP, basically because you can put logic in your configuration files, which can be very, can come in very handy sometimes. What I prefer most of all is to take my configurations right into the code as a doc blocks, or in PHP 8 that would be attributes. It's true that not everything can be configured in that way, so you will eventually need either YAML files or PHP config files, whatever. But yeah, I kind of, it's like I'm a little biased by saying I simply, I know and I'm used to working with YAML files. If I had to start from scratch, I probably will not use them.
Yeah, because I found it quite cumbersome. When I tried to integrate Laravel into Symfony, I realized that half of the time I spent on configuration, on YAML configuration, and documentation for me, at least probably I searched for wrong keywords, but I had a little bit issue with finding proper recommendation and implementation.
Okay.
Yeah. So okay, it was the second file. So rewrite service container from Laravel to Symfony, and then okay, readme MD. That's nothing important. But then, as I mentioned before, the connecting point with framework was a command. So therefore, I need to rewrite this connecting point to Symfony framework. So I rewrote command from Laravel to Symfony. So there are some differences. As I showed you, Laravel had a little bit different syntax. But basically, Laravel uses option in Symfony is get option. So the rest of the code I copy pasted.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, it is the same. And okay. And the last thing I need to do, and now I will do it in my PHP Storm. Hopefully it will work. So I have these Lara to Symfony differences. So I'm going to Laravel, and I'm going to copy directories. Okay, so I need collection console. As I mentioned, there is a command, I don't need it, contract I need, entity I need, exception I need, generation I need, handler I need, output I need, Spetty and Swift mailer I need. So Control C. Here we go. Control V. Okay, I can edit. And now, cross fingers.
Come on, okay. I trust you.
It's been working.
All right, it's working. Yay! That's been a great show. The copying the files from Laravel to Symfony. Very good. Yeah.
Basically, this is it. I have nothing more to share with you. Maybe as a conclusion, this is the way how we do stuff at ESET. I know that there will be some people who maybe will see it as cumbersome, or probably they would do it a little bit simpler. We do it this way because, as I said, in 90% of time, our business owners come with new features and we need the flexibility. Therefore, we use interfaces. Therefore, we use design patterns. We believe that design patterns help us to be more efficient, because also newcomers, when come and join our team, we can teach them design patterns and they immediately understand our code. So this is it probably.
All right. So first of all, thank you so much for sharing your code and your knowledge, your wisdom. If you want, it's been really really great. I hope people who are watching this got really good ideas about how to work more maybe professionally with PHP. And for some people, this may be a surprise, but yes, you can work professionally using PHP. Those are not things that don't belong together. That was one thing. And one thing I wanted to ask you is, and you kind of mentioned it earlier, but when it comes to maybe creating a new project, what's your rationale or your criteria for selecting either Laravel or Symfony?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I performed this decision 5 years ago, and there were three sources I watched. First of all, it was Stack Overflow. They performed once per year poll among developers about favorite frameworks. So it was the one source. Another source was for me Google Trends. So when you compare Symfony and Laravel, you can see some trends. And the third, probably the most important for me in my country, it was availability of people in labor market.
Right.
So in Slovakia, it is, I would say, from 10 PHP developers, 6 would prefer Laravel for Symfony. So I knew that time that I probably would need to build a bigger team, and therefore this was something, or this was the main reason.
That's definitely good thinking. Specifically for a manager, you need to weigh those kind of factors in, definitely. All right. So okay, I guess my mission in the world is to change that ratio the other way around. Now, of course, I'm joking there. I personally prefer Symfony, but I think it's perfectly fine to use any framework that you want. And as you showed us, as long as you follow the good coding practices, you will find that the framework is somewhat like a wrapper around your code, and or maybe a basis for implementing your needs quicker. But the bottom line is you need to be very much aware of the quality of the code you are producing yourself, and the framework should not tie your hands together, the other way around, actually.
Yeah.
So great, Martin, thank you so much for joining me. This has been delightful. And what can you say if people want to get to know you a little better? Where can they find out more about you?
Yeah, they can find me on LinkedIn or GitHub. So
great.
Anyone can write me. Honestly, I would be really. I'm quite open-minded person, so I'm looking forward to see comments of what people really think about this approach. And at the end, I'd like to say that, as you said, that people maybe can be surprised that professional web development is done in PHP. For our company, PHP is really very important because we are a software company, and in Bratislava, ESET employs almost 1,000 people. If you imagine that 500 of them are developers, if all of them would be Java programmers, you would never find them in labor market. Therefore, you need to have the portfolio of different programming languages, and PHP has great advantage that it is purely web-based language. So you have no competition, or we have no competition inside company with our product. Antivirus product is written, I don't know, from Java to Python. And we have no internal competition, and when I need to hire somebody, it's just my team or my teams, and nobody else at ESET. Yeah.
Great. So one last question is, are there any openings for PHP developers at the moment?
Currently not. So
okay.
I didn't make this video because of hiring, but anyone.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
There might be openings in the future. Okay.
Yeah. This is what I wanted to say, that if anyone likes things like we do, I recommend them to request, I don't know how it is called, friendship on LinkedIn or whatever else. and I would be really very happy to accept it.
Okay, great. So again, thank you very much for joining me. The links to Martin's GitHub and particularly this project will be right below here. So keep in touch, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and keep coding.
Thank you very much. Bye.
So I hope you enjoyed my interview with Martin, and if you have any other question or anything you would like to have me create a new video, please leave a comment right here and connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter, or just you can send me an email, and I will do my best to answer your questions to the best of my ability. Bye.